Well, this is Millis Separated Family Centre in the parade, and this is I'm about to go in there and talk to Denise, who runs it. She's been running it for the past 24 years, and I'm hoping we shall learn some interesting things. I'm with Denise Carroll, who I interviewed 100 years ago, so it seems it was 2011.
Absolutely.
And you're with the Millis Separated Family Centre, which you were with then in 2011. You just received the MBE. You were standing for the States. I presume you're not standing for the States this time round, but everything else is much the same. The Millis Centre, which we are in now, and I can look at it. You know, this is Millis Centre. It's opposite the cenotaph. If anybody's looking for toys for their children or anything for their children, it's all here. And you've been doing this for how many years?
Overall, running the organisation for about 24 years. We've been going now. Yep.
What a shame you didn't get elected, wasn't it?
I suppose in some ways certainly it would have been good to get in there and be able to voice and recommend, you know, changes for single separating families. But on the other hand, maybe the organisation needed, and maybe that was the reason why I didn't get in.
Yes, I mean, there's a proliferation of charities in the island doing activities. When we spoke in 2000, if I remember, you said it's really a job which government ought to be doing, because governments tend to do it in other places. But is that still the same? Do you still think this is something that government ought to be doing?
I think that was referring to certain aspects, things like maintenance.
Right.
In certain other areas back then, the governments were actually taking maintenance at source of income,
right,
and passing it on to the lone parent. Our government never were able to get their heads around doing something like that. There was too much legislation, or the income tax can't talk to social security and vice versa. So the will was never really there to do it. But on other respects, I think it's nice to keep it independent.
Right. Well, that was one of the themes you did say in 2011.
More insight now shows me that actually keeping it independent gives parents an awful lot of comfort in knowing that you're, you know, not part of that system. They can come and talk to you in confidence, and I think we can then take parents under our wing and guide them. There's been, unfortunately, you know, many cases where I've thankfully managed to get people to lawyers or to the services that they need, whereas they might not. And it's just pure sort of fear that if they contact those organisations, what's going to happen? They don't know, so they don't do it, and they just struggle on.
When you started out 24 years ago, was there much demand?
I think there's just as much demand today, because unfortunately the UK, including Jersey, has got one of the worst records for family breakdown in Europe. So we really should be concentrating more on the subject, and it's the funding, the therapy, the support networks, they are not there. It's not just a tick box exercise. You can't just take a family, tick a few boxes and send them out the door thinking that's going to be it.
I mean, I know about the business where aggrieved parents, they have to be kept apart when you're exchanging. If somebody's got access for the weekend or they're looking after the child, it's best to keep the parents apart. But that, I presume, is that's not the entirety of what you're doing. Just tell us what some of the things you are doing.
Well, that's why we've got the charity shop, to raise funds to be able to deliver our parenting course called Putting Children First, which is all the psychological side of the grieving process that parents go through, and it's to understand what one parent and the other parent goes through, why they then incur all this disharmony and so on, and actually how it affects the children. And it doesn't just affect children for that period of time, it's the long-term effects with family breakdown. Most of the time you won't see the problems come out until they're teenagers.
Right. Do you in fact have tutorials for children, or is that too formal? How do you deal with the children themselves?
We've actually got a counsellor who has trained with the same people that the Millis volunteers have, Nick and Karen Woodall from the Family Separation Clinic in London, who train judicial staff, judges. They train all around the world in family breakdown. And Karen actually works for the High Court of Justice as an expert witness.
Right.
Very, very well experienced in the field. And she actually looks after cases that become more complicated or need counselling. So she is a trained counsellor, highly trained counsellor, trained in trauma as well, which again family breakdown is. And
do you get called in by the court? Do they ask you for your advice or anything, or does that not? Because obviously the courts are quite secret, confidential to the parents and the child. So presumably you're not encouraged to participate in that.
Unfortunately, no. Where years ago, when the system was different, yes, we used to work very closely before JAFCAS formed with
Right.
the social workers. They always commented that, you know, we saw these parents a lot more than they would over the course of time. So what we and my people were seeing was invaluable to them. You know, we're not here to question why they didn't use what information we gave. But you know, we just want to be part of the process to help the children for their well-being and their future.
Since we last met, since we last had an interview, several significant things have happened. For example, we've had the Independent Child Care Inquiry. You can tell me what effect that's had. You've got a Children's Commissioner appointed. We've got a Charity Commissioner appointed. Briefly, do those three things, have they affected you very much?
No, it really, if you have good governance in your charity,
Right.
then these things don't. You know, it's just more paperwork, another process to go through. But they're not difficult. In actual fact, I found the Charity Commission to be extremely helpful.
Right.
When we were first applying, also, you know, other times, just changing address and whatever.
Right.
Very easy, very simple.
Because I feared that a lot of small charities, lots of very small charities, would find the bureaucracy too much. In your experience, has that happened?
I think, again, if you're a very, very small charity,
Right.
but we had a committee,
Right.
we had the required number
Right.
of people and so on in place anyway.
Right.
A lot of that was learnt by the Association of Jersey
Right.
Charities.
Right.
So I suppose really most of that work was done prior. If you're a very, very small, then no, you most probably would have incurred
The
problems.
Children's Commissioner arrived on the scene. Has that aided or noticeably aided your work?
Yes and no, because there are the rights of the child and so on, but the rights of the child does come into conflict when it comes into family breakdown, and you get an awful lot of parents that do try throwing it around, you know, oh, it's the right of the... Yes, it is, but the courts and everybody have to look at the bigger picture, you know, so there's good and bad for everything, isn't there?
Possibly. The actual inquiry itself, did you ever go to any of the hearings, the Independent Child Care Inquiry? Did you go to any of the hearings?
No.
So you weren't required to give evidence, or did they invite you to give evidence?
No.
Do you think you could have given useful information? Is it? Because obviously you see children in the early stages, like you're saying, when they're teenagers, all the problems start to come out. Well, this is partly what the Commissioner is supposed to be looking at. Early years development is very important.
Really well researched. I mean, yeah, in a lot of research is actually sort of named the Fatherless Generation.
Right.
Again, there's been things on the national news and so on over the years about housing estates that they've identified where there are very few, if any, males, and children are then not getting the balance of male and female.
Right.
How do you form relationships, long-term, meaningful relationships? which all contributes or can contribute to causing problems later on.
Well, of course, the Commissioner has picked up especially on the fact of the housing regulations here and how a lot of people are they're not properly housed, they're not allowed to be housed, not goals and all that sort. She's picked up on those and how that does create specific problems for children. Yeah. Do you encounter that? Does that something?
Absolutely. We've seen over the years lots and lots of, unfortunately, it tends to be more so dads that have had to leave the island.
Right.
Can't afford to live here in accommodation to be able to have their children, or even pay maintenance and all the other outgoings and be able to live in accommodation themselves. So the easiest thing to do is to leave the island and go back home.
What happens if a parent, I mean, it might be either parent, but presumably mostly the women would finish up with the children. That would be if the father deserts, and he might go back to England or wherever he came, or any country in Europe, anywhere in the world now, anywhere he can come back to. What sort of problems does that specifically create? Because obviously the child would still want to have contact with their father in most cases, wouldn't they?
It's difficult, and I suppose it's becoming more and more common now for children, and children can accommodate and adapt. You can take all these things on board quite easily if they're started and if procedures are put in place that are followed on a regular basis. So it means an awful lot of hard work from parents to make sure that that happens. But things such as holidays and so on are spent going backwards and forwards between parents. Now we've got FaceTime and so on, and all the apps that the children can speak to the parents every day.
I suppose so. I mean, that has none of things changed. We forget how much the computers, I mean, Zoom, and not that I can operate Zoom, I always make a mess of it, but children seem to have no difficulty whatsoever talking to anybody across the world if they want to, if they choose to do so. Right. So I suppose there is that sort of contact. There
is, and as I say, if the determination and the will of the parents is there, it can be successful. And a child can, have the benefits of two worlds, really. Right. Knowing two different places. Right. Brilliant. But yeah, it takes a lot of hard work for the parents.
Well, after the independent inquiry, there was great talk about training up local social workers. Now, they took on a team training through Highlands, I think. Have the fruits of that started to come through yet? Because that was several years ago. Those courses should have been completed by now. Those social workers should be in the system. Do you know, are they?
Again, we don't. I've no idea. No idea. I've seen some sort of local names popping up and so on. So I would say they are in the system. But again, we don't really have an awful lot to do.
Your parents, when they come to you, the parents of the children, do they complain about lack of social workers? Or because one of the great problems was they're forever changing. You say, well, then they're recruited from the UK and then they get sent back. And that was one of the problems. Training them locally was supposed to overcome that you'd have consistent, same social worker dealing with the children. Is that happening?
I've literally, many years ago, again, before JFCAS was formed, the social workers, maybe 18 months, 2 years, I'd be working with the same social worker on a case. That really worked well because we built up that bond. We knew what was going on. They knew as well. The family would be comfortable with that person. So the social worker obviously gleaned an awful lot more from them. And now I see... Well, I've had one parent complaining to me because she's on to the 5th social worker, and every time the social worker changes, a different course of action is put into. So very difficult, very frustrating, and actually I always question what's happening to those children. What toll does it take on them?
Does the system pick up, as far as you know, because obviously you're dealing with a particular aspect of it, but there are, it's always one of the, you hear some dreadful cases in the UK, and there are some dreadful cases here. There was Family X, I think. I mean, the abuse that was taking place there over many years, and I was thinking to myself, how on earth could the system not pick up on it? And there was a case reported last year. Again, it's another shade of Family X. How could the system not know? It's not possible. But is that something that comes to you? Do you find, oh my God, how does nobody know about this? Is that what hits you?
Touch words. Yeah, no, I've not really had any sort of terrible cases like that. But I think, again, it's the lack of, more money needs to be invested,
Right.
more social workers are needed. Where you're sitting in offices filling out paperwork and so on, you need that time out with the families, not stuck in offices, tick box exercising. That's how people are going to... And where you get a disjointed community, we've got very much divided community now. And people...
Is it more than just wealth? It's more than that. It's social aspects is it language? Is that a problem? Is it place where you live?
It's
or
different cultures.
Different cultures.
And, that causes problems. People not wanting, because everybody's living so close now.
Right.
You've only got to look at the housing estate down at St Clement's, the new one. It's like a rabbit warren.
Well, it's like a prison block, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I'm amazed that they would have built that one. I can see it from my window. And
I think I've been in once or twice, and you literally, as you enter it and start the buildings, the anxiety starts because you just feel, like claustrophobic. It's awful. And when people are living that close in proximity, you've got to question, are they really going to say anything about their neighbours?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Chances are, no, they're not, because they've got to live next to that person.
What happens if you have instances where people are in whatever the housing is, socially housed or otherwise, and the marriage breaks up? Generally speaking, is the system able to house both the parents? In other words, is the woman who finishes up with the children, or they might, if they got equal shares, but who gets the priority as far as social housing is concerned? Because you'd think the woman, if she's got the children, would have the priority, but the guy has to live somewhere. Does he get a one-bedroom flat somewhere? Is that what happens?
I think that's a good question to our sanctuary
Is
house. From what I understand, unfortunately, they've got quite a lot of guys where the family have broken down and they end up homeless.
Right.
We have had some clients that have resided there, and why? Just because of relationship. But again, the cost of rents and cost of living, and if you're on minimum wage and then you've got to pay out maintenance and so on, if you've got to take the children out for the day because you don't have suitable accommodation to take them back to, it's an expensive island. So, absolute nightmare.
Yes. Well, I mean, collecting maintenance from guys who do a runner is a tradition. And there are powers to pursue them for them, even if they leave the island. In your experience, does that happen? Are blokes pursued for their arrears?
You can pursue, but my understanding is that you have to know the county in England that they are residing in, and then the lawyers here have to appoint a lawyer in that county who will then serve papers and take legal. So extremely difficult, and if somebody's going to go, they're either going to go and be upright parent and pay their maintenance, or they're actually going and they're not really going to give you a forwarding address, so chances are you're not going to know where they are.
Curious debate going on Facebook at the moment about children who are going off to university and the grants that are available to them. And one of the factors is if parents are separated, there's the assessment of what their income is. If there's a parent who doesn't live in the household, their income can still be assessed as part of the income, and therefore that can amount to a lesser grant being given to the child. So obviously, like most of these scenarios, at the end of the day, it's the child or the children who finish up suffering the most. So again, do you know about these things? I mean, I know it's not what your Millis is set up for, but you must hear all this. You must see all this.
Absolutely, you hear about it. And I did know somebody whose husband lived in France and decided that he wasn't going to pay the private school fees anymore, and just stopped. And the school actually tried to pursue mum for the school fees. She didn't have the money. She spent, months trying to sort it out. Eventually, they did, through the lawyers and so on, but extremely stressful. And when a parent's stressed, where, the children know, they pick up on it. They have to live with that. So, again, the way we work is that we have to de-stress these parents. We've got to keep them happy, healthy and comfortable to be able to do the best for children. But with university, my husband left the island. I have no idea where he is, what he's doing, what would happen then, I do know of one parent recently who refused point blank to pay university fees for his child. What are they going to do in that case? It's really difficult. I know years ago we worked with Wendy Kinnard when she was on legislation, and the system was put in place that state education and maintenance, everything was covered till the child was 16. After that, when you're looking at university fees and so on, then you would have to renegotiate the contract to do with maintenance.
There are many aspects of child welfare which are not your concern really, but they must affect you. But I want to discuss one other aspect. You had political ambitions once. Now there are still a very small minority of women in the States, and there's going to be a few less this time. There might be some fresh ones elected, who knows. I mean, I've got a male view of it. The women tend not to be the memorable politicians, but they have a different approach to politics than I have. I'm a typical aggressive male, and women aren't, generally speaking. They're not aggressive in the same way that men are, and they tend to be a bit timid politically. Is that something you'd agree with, or is that something you've observed? Do you think women are effective as states members?
I think women try and tackle it in a different way, don't they? But again, it's the passion and the people that are around you, and it must become tiresome when you're constantly being put down. When I was running for election, we had this as well, where everything we said was, and when I say we, I'm talking about the JDA and that, when I was involved with them, everything was, oh yeah, you're scaremongering. Well, actually, if you look back on the vast majority of what we said then, it's come right. And we weren't scaremongering. We were just maybe, looking to the future. Because
in the last election, 2018, the women topped the poll, but they didn't get the top jobs.
Yep.
Well, why didn't they get the top jobs? What
because
was lacking?
Jobs for the boys.
Jobs for the boys, isn't it? The
Unfortunately, if you look at the states at the moment, it's clear to see who's scratching whose back.
Right.
We've got some in there that are also just biding their time until retirement, become totally ineffective, and it leaves a huge question at the moment of, is there anybody in there worth actually voting for?
But why don't women have this same organisation? Why don't they? I mean, they had the 100 years of suffragettes and the vote and all the rest of it, and I did a couple of interviews. And of course, I'm a male, and I look at it from, well, why don't they behave like men? Well, obviously that's what's wrong. We don't want women to behave like men, but they're not being effective, I don't think. This is the sadness.
And it is difficult, and it's time consuming, as I say, when I was running for election, even before, to make sure that you are known by the public, and the public can build up a good picture of your morals, your principles, and what you're fighting for. I used to be able to fill the town hall on housing issues.
Right.
Now, I think you'd be hard pushed to get anybody to come out on housing issues. Right. Yes, they still exist. The high rents.
Right. Well,
but would anybody actually come out? And
like
start
you were
campaigning?
talking about it in 2011, they've been talking about it ever since and before. You know, but and they're still talking about it. And they're still saying, oh, we got to do something about lack of affordable housing and the housing crisis. It makes no damn difference, does it?
No, because the housing prices still keep going up and up and
Up
up.
and up and up.
And we're watching more and more youngsters leaving. You've actually got parents saying, we're encouraging our children to leave because there's nothing here for them. You've got people selling their properties because they know that, if they keep that property and they need to go into care, then their property's going to go. So we'll sell it beforehand, enjoy our time. The whole system is just so broken. Getting young parents back to work. There is not the will. It's just so difficult to have children go back to work and take a back step financially until you get everything financially sorted out. Absolute nightmares. People need to be in these places talking to the people it's affecting, and not just the odd person, but they actually need to talk to them. Don't give them surveys. People aren't, those that are struggling, those that are suffering haven't got the time for surveys.
No, indeed. And they try to find the right answer to answer it. This is the trouble, I think. They don't necessarily say from their heart because they haven't really thought it out in their own minds. So.
No, and people who haven't lived it haven't really got a clue.
No, they don't. You just guess at it, don't you?
Yeah. And, you might be doing it with the best will in the world, but unless you've got those people there giving you that information firsthand and the insight, you're never going to get it right.
I mean, I suppose from Millis' perspective, your charity, you're constrained to what you're set up to do, so you can't be a campaigning charity. You have to offer the service, you offer the service. That's what you do. And I suppose 24 years more, it'll still be offering the same service unless the system changes radically, won't it?
Well, yeah, again, we work on that principle of trying to break that generational cycle of family breakdown, and that's by working with the parents. And if the parents can get on and do the best for their children, then hopefully their children will see, mum and dad got on, they worked and did what was good for us, and relationships can work.
Well, you're now old enough in this 24 years, you've got children you met 24 years ago who are now parents, have got their own children. Have you actually had any that you recognise that fact? Do people come to you and say, oh, I came to you 24 years ago, 20 years ago?
Definitely, definitely. And that's where, again, I know that it needs the will of the government to put long-term support and therapy and so on in place to break that cycle. Without breaking it, you're just creating year on year more and more cases for counsellors, for ELSAs, for early support teams, and actually creating clients for jobs.
With an ever-increasing population, that's inevitable. There's going to be more cases. Doesn't matter whether it's good or bad, you're going to have more cases. So that's inevitable, isn't it? So unless they're increasing...
But we should be able to get back to children understanding, good, solid relationships.
I'd like to talk, there's so many things I'd like to talk about because there's so many spin-offs from what you're doing. It sounds simple, but it's not simple. And you're aware, you see what goes on. And it's...
Family breakdown is horrific. It's a spider's web, and I think this is where actually when some politicians in the past have got involved to look at maintenance issues, they realise how complicated it is. And I think it sort of put them off a bit of getting involved. So yeah, it's not an easy subject.
I can't ask the question I want to ask because I'm wondering if there are any children who you've passed through this system who are expressing a political wish, but I can't ask that because it would identify them. So I'd love to know if they've been politicised by the process, because I'm a political person.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know what that noise is. There's something telling us.
My phone going.
Your phoning?
Well,
okay.
it's the Milli's phone, yeah.
I mean, how many staff do you actually have here?
Well, in the shop there is 6 of them.
Right. Oh, really?
But obviously we're looking for more volunteers. and at the contact centre there's 12 volunteers.
Right. And you're the fixer. You organise it all.
I'm just one of the last remaining founder in the organisation,
Really?
and coordinator really, that just tries to link it all together. And
Okay,
without the team of volunteers, none of it would exist.
And presumably financial contributions.
We get no government funding,
No.
so we want to stay completely independent if possible. So donations are, to run the contact centre, to offer the course free of charge to parents, because it is vital information that parents need.
Right.
So the minute you start putting a charge in on anything, you suddenly start to cut people off.
Right.
I mean, we again help people financially at times. From the shop we can help people with things. So everything.
Well, as I pointed out before, if you want to buy anything to do with children, everything's here. Look at it all, everything you want. There you are. I mean, it's an amazing shop. I thought I was in Toys R Us when I walked in here.
I mean, if anybody wants to know more, or get in touch.
Okay, we'll come back again in another 10 years and see how it's going on.
Look forward to it.
Thanks.